Hello guys, welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here, and we're doing a little bit of a different video this week. To be honest, I always film my videos a week in advance, but last week it was my birthday and there was just a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, so I didn't film anything. So I was thinking of different things that I could film for you guys and make a video about, and I'm always getting questions about books that I love and book recommendations. You guys know I love to read. I love reading first thing in the morning, especially different self-development books, nonfiction. I just find that it wakes me up. It's a really good and peaceful way to start the day, and it always just sets me up mindset-wise for a really good day. It expands the way I think, all of those good things. And then I love ending my day with a fiction book. I find that it's really calming for my nervous system. It's something that keeps me off my phone and my screens. This specific video, I'm not going to be sharing any fiction books or anything like that. These are all going to be more nonfiction books. You guys are always asking if I have health-related book recommendations, and to be honest, I don't read that many health books just because so much of what I learned comes from obviously my education, my undergrad in psychology, science, and nutrition, and then my education as a naturopathic doctor, plus all the continuing education courses that I do in the different continuing education programs that I'm in, and then obviously my clinical experience and what I'm learning in clinic, what I see is working in a clinical setting. But with that being said, I do have a few health-related books. To be honest, most of the books that I'm going to share today are nonfiction. A lot of them are more in the spirituality, self-development, mindset genre, if you would call it. I've talked about this a lot, but working on my spiritual health, my mindset, my mental, emotional health has made such a big difference in my physical health. I really don't think that you can have one without the other, especially the way that we are seeing the importance of the nervous system and how that plays a role in your overall health, your metabolic health, blood sugar control, but also your digestive health. All of those are really connected to nervous system health and nervous system regulation, and to some extent your mental health as well. But we also know that mental health is dictated by physical health. Anyway, long story short, it is all interconnected. But I think that if you are on any sort of health journey or you're looking to improve your health, then definitely working on mindset, nervous system control, stress reduction, and just improving the relationship that you have with yourself and your body. I think that that is something that is really underrated as well. That is what we are going to be diving into today. I don't want to make this introduction too long. I have most of the books that I'm going to be talking about with me. If I don't have them, I will put a picture of the cover up on the screen. I have a really bad habit of lending my books to people and then I forget who I lent them to and then I never see them again. To be honest, there are books in here that I bought multiple copies of because I've just lent them out to people. With that being said, we will jump right into it. I'm gonna start out with books about spirituality and self-development, and I'm gonna start out with what I call my holy trinity. These are the three books that really kick-started my spirituality, self-development journey and my mindset journey in general, and they are The Untethered Soul, The Alchemist, and The Four Agreements. Starting off with probably one of my all-time favorite books. This is The Untethered Soul. I first read this when I was 23. I didn't have any sort of spiritual practice or mindfulness practice or anything. And I really say that this is the book that kickstarted my spiritual awakening journey and improving my mindfulness habits and my relationship with myself. This book talks a lot about the voice in your head and how it is not necessarily you, and that you're simply an observer of the thoughts in your head and that they're not always necessarily true. It really opened up my awareness. This is a great book if you are a chronic overthinker like me, and I found it to be a fairly easy read and pretty applicable to my life. I know that another book that often gets recommended along with The Untethered Soul is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I found The Untethered Soul to be a lot more practical and a lot more easy to digest. I just found that The Power of Now, I know that this is a really popular book, I just found the practices and the content within the book was really hard to apply to my life. So for that reason, I really liked The Untethered Soul. And then moving on, another book that I started out with, which again, I found it to be a really short and easy read, was The Four Agreements. Like The Untethered Soul, I found this to be a pretty easy read. It's a pretty short book. I actually think that I got through it in a day, but you can definitely go back and reread it. It basically just goes through the four agreements, which are be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make make assumptions, and always do your best. And I find that these are just 4 really simple principles that you can go back to, but the book's really nice because it kind of expands on those. It talks about the way that society has kind of gotten in the way of those 4 agreements. But again, a very easy read. Whenever I'm in a used bookstore, I always pick up a copy of this if they have it, because I've given away so many of these. And then the last book that really kickstarted my spiritual awakening, and I don't even know if this is considered a nonfiction because it technically is a fiction, it's a story. So I would definitely recommend this if you do like fiction books or more story books, because it was a really fun read. It's basically a story about a young boy from Spain who goes on a journey to find treasure in Egypt, and it's just about his journey along the way. He basically starts the journey looking for a material fortune. He learns a lot of lessons along the way. I do really need to reread it because I haven't read it in a few years. Definitely one that I would recommend, and again, especially if you like more of the fiction books. Okay, a few other books on mindset that I have really liked. So another one was The Surrender Experiment. This is by the same author as The Untethered Soul, so that was originally why I read it, but this is basically his story about his life. I was really intrigued by the name, The Surrender Experiment, and it's basically how he just surrendered to the path of his life. Not necessarily that he didn't take action. He always took action in his life, but he was very detached from the outcome, and basically everything that happened in his life, he just totally accepted it and then moved forward. And you kind of see that there are ups and downs in his life, and he got really good at kind of riding the wave of life. Something that I strive to improve on every day, especially as someone who's always trying to hyper control everything in my life, although I think that I've gotten a lot better at that. But a book that I would definitely recommend. And again, if you like a good story, this one kind of keeps you engaged as well. Okay, the next one that I would really recommend is The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. You guys can see I've left so many notes within this. I love tabbing my books, but this is again another story format, so really good and a really fun read. But it is about a lawyer who basically has a heart attack. He sells all of his things, he sells his Ferrari, and he moves to India to learn from the monks. But it's a really great lesson about spirituality, about balancing joy and peace, and that's something that I'm always looking to balance. You know, I'm not always striving for happiness in my life. Now I'm more so striving for peace. But again, a really great read. I always feel like whenever I read these books, it always opened my eyes to different ways of thinking. Yeah, it makes you look at your life and setbacks and challenges and events in your life a totally different way. And like I said, I love when they're more in like a story format. I find that it makes it just a lot easier of a read. Another book that I really love for more mindset work, especially if you are looking for improving your career or just moving yourself forward in your life, is the book Mindset. This is very much focused on the growth-centered mindset and looking at setbacks and different challenges in your life as learning opportunities. I really enjoyed this book. I read it when I was very early on in my clinical practice and being an ND, and I was really struggling with just the very steep learning curve that every doctor has to go through very early on in their career, and I found this to be incredibly helpful. Another book that I would really recommend if you are more looking for one for self-development and just self-improvement in general is How to Win Friends and Influence People. This one is a really great one, especially if you are looking to improve the relationships in your life, whether that be professional or personal. I found this one to be super helpful just with improving your interactions with different people in your life. And then if you're looking to improve your relationship with yourself, a book that I really liked was The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. I know that she's written a bunch of different books, and she also has a podcast and a really great Instagram page. I really like The Gifts of Imperfection. I think that this one is a really great one if you're struggling with a lot of self-compassion and self-esteem. Definitely one that I would recommend if you're looking more to turn inwards and just improve the relationship with yourself. Another book that I would really recommend if you want to improve your relationship with yourself, but then also improve that mind, body, spiritual health, heal those limiting beliefs, is How to Do the Work. And you guys know I'm very much someone who likes when there is tangible takeaways, things that I can really implement into my life. And I really found this book did a good job at educating around limiting beliefs, thought patterns, subconscious habits, and things like that, and how to actually change those within your life. It also has little exercises within it. So I found this book to be very helpful, and like I said, very applicable to your life. And then one other book that I would highly, highly recommend if you are looking for more of that mind-body connection is The Body Keeps the Score. This book is definitely pretty dense. Like, it was definitely not a light read to get through, but if you are looking for more information about how trauma, major life events impact your physical health, then I would definitely recommend this book. And then the last book in this category, and I really debated if I was going to include this, but I thought I would talk about it, is Atomic Habits. This came out quite a few years ago, and I feel like everyone and their mother has read this book. It is very popular. To be honest, I didn't love this book. I still think that it's useful and helpful, but I do think that it's slightly overcomplicated the topic, if that makes sense. I totally get it that habits and building new habits is something we all struggle with. It's something that I struggle with myself, and just staying consistent with healthy habits. But I do think to some extent this did overcomplicate it. I think that it has a lot of good points. It also talks a little bit about why we always fall back to our defaults and our bad habits. So I would say if you're just starting out and you're looking at ways that you could improve your habits, this could be a good one. But to be honest, in my personal journey, I've actually found that doing more self-exploration, looking at my limiting beliefs, looking at my subconscious beliefs and things like that has actually done more to change my habits, and also looking at unhealthy coping mechanisms. So a lot of times our bad habits are unhealthy coping mechanisms, and we, one, have to find healthy coping mechanisms, and two, we have to address why we are using the unhealthy coping mechanisms. That's kind of a tangent and a topic for another day, but I just thought that I would include this. And then two other books. Okay, I know I said that that was the last one, but two other books that I would also recommend are both by Thich Nhat Hanh. He is a Buddhist monk, and I do sometimes find that his teachings are a little bit hard to apply to the modern world. But I did find that The Silence, The Power of Quiet in a World Full of Noise, and The Art of Living both had tips that I was actually able to apply to my life, bringing in more mindfulness into my life, which is something I think we all struggle with in the modern world, is just creating a lot more peace and mindfulness in our life. So those two I would also recommend. Now, I did say that I don't have very many health related books because, like I said, I don't read a lot of those. One that I have read is The Hormone Cure by Dr. Sarah Gottfried. This is a really good just introduction books to hormones for women. I believe that she breaks it down into the main hormones. I mean, obviously there are so many hormones within our body, but she talks about the main ones. So she talks a lot about cortisol. She talks a lot about thyroid, androgens, estrogen, progesterone, and then she does talk a little bit about menopause as well. So again, I just think that this is a really good introduction book if you're just looking to learn more about your hormonal health. So I would start there. I'm also currently reading Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means, and that one is really good as well. I'm only about 3/4 of the way through, but I can already say that that is a very good book as well. I'll put a picture of the cover here. And then I did want to share a few of my favorite books on herbs. I bought all of these when I was still in school, so I bought them as just references. So the first one, and probably my favorite, is The Modern Herbal Dispensatory. I use this one a lot, especially when I was in school, just for reference. I find that this is a really comprehensive book. It talks about basic principles within herbal medicine. It also talks about different preparations. So it talks about teas, tinctures, topical preparations, and then it goes into depth on different herbs, and I would say it's pretty comprehensive. It definitely doesn't have all the herbs that I would use in practice, but it has a good amount. So for each herb, it will have its common name, its Latin name. It has a little blurb about what that herb is traditionally used for, and then it has some warnings and contraindications for the herbs, and then it has some information about dosing and sourcing. So if you are maybe getting into naturopathic medicine or getting into herbalism or anything like that, and you're looking for a resource, this is a book that I would highly recommend. Another one that I would recommend is Essential Herbs. I would say that this is very similar to Modern Herbal Dispensary. It's a little bit more more basic, I would say. The nice thing about this is the graphics within it. Very similar to the other book. It has blurbs about its traditional uses, safety warnings, and also how to source it and dosing information. And then the thing that I also like about this one is it has really nice tables at the front of it that talk about the different herbs and the different uses for them. And then the last one is one that I actually stole from my dad, and that is the Herbal source book. Again, this is very, very similar to the other two in terms of that it has a little bit information about each herb. It does have a little bit more information about different indications, talks about different conditions, so you can look up each condition, and then it talks about the different herb that can be used for that condition. But again, like a really good book that I would recommend if you're getting into naturopathic medicine or herbalism or anything like that. And then the last book that I would recommend, again, if you're getting into holistic nutrition, naturopathic medicine, herbalism, is Healing Foods. This was actually written by an ND, and I used to have his other book that was an encyclopedia of naturopathic medicine, but it ended up falling apart because I read through it so much that basically the entire book was falling apart. Plus, I was finding that some of the things were out of date because it was written quite a few years ago, and what we've learned from the research and the way that naturopathic medicine has evolved and progressed over the last 10, 15 years has been so amazing. I just found that a lot of the content was out of date, but I do find that the nutrition book, Healing Foods, I still find this very, very, very useful. And you can see it is quite a thick book. It has a lot of different sections. So it starts by talking about just the basic principles of a good diet. And then it talks about different food components. So it talks about protein, carbohydrates, fats, but also breaking those down. So looking at different types of fiber, soluble, insoluble fiber, looking at all the different amino acids. I really think that amino acids are so interesting, and actually looking at the roles that those play in the body. And then it also talks about fats, again, different fatty acids. We know that there is such a spectrum of fats and the role that those play in our body. And then it also talks about different vitamins and nutrients. And then it also talks about different types of foods. So it breaks it down into vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, grains, beans, legumes, fish and seafood, milk and dairy products, meat and poultry. So it goes in depth about all of those. But the thing that I really, really love about this book is that you can look up almost any food, and it has a few pages specifically about that food. So if I open it up to a random page, so here we have pumpkin seeds. So it has a little blurb about pumpkin seeds. It has the history of pumpkin seeds. It talks about the nutritional highlights, how to select pumpkin seeds, and how to properly store the food as well. And then it has some tips for preparing them, some safety information as well. And then like the herb books, it also has conditions in the back. So you can go and, for example, I've opened this up to Alzheimer's disease, and it talks a little bit about Alzheimer's disease, the signs and symptoms, some of the causes, and then nutritional approaches to that. So again, a book that I would highly recommend if you are getting into holistic nutrition, naturopathic medicine, even herbalism. Yeah, that is all of my book recommendations for today. There are definitely lots of other books that I've read and that I've loved, but I really just wanted to give you guys an overview of some of my favorites. Definitely let me know in the comments below what your book recommendations are. Like I said, I couldn't include a lot of health related books. So if you guys have read any health related books that you have found to be really, really helpful, please let us know in the comments so that everyone else can see what books you've read and what books you've enjoyed. I really want the comment section to be more of a conversation for you guys. Yeah, and let me know if you guys like the sit down videos. I know I got a lot of comments on my last videos that you guys really like food and the cooking and more of the vlog style videos. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Quiet life of desperation, but it ain't gonna make me too much longer.